or Tangaso Laundry to the Tidwaris, Laundry, or to Kalekalajan waters.
So we've been slowly going over the text by the great master Atisha called The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment.
Tangasu Kashugare, Chetan Sanjik, Sijan Galo Sanjik Rius, Sanjirons, and then Susu and Yabajeva in the Kangalo Sanjak, Nuba Yuaris, Sanjik Rig Chaduars, waters.
So when we speak of sentient beings, we can assert truly that all sentient beings possess the Buddha lineage or Buddha nature. All sentient beings possess the ability to become a fully enlightened Buddha.
Oh, then at the name Kashugare, Tangasu Sanjik read and the Sijan Galio, Sanjik read the Tak, Sijan Tangela, and the Sanjik Rig Chaduars, read the Garasana. Zonga to Eji Sheba dress, Eji Sheba Tula, Eji Sheba La, Eji Sheba the Negasure, Loge Dan, Loge Maimani Wars, Loge Maimbi Rige, and Eji Sheba de Sanjik Rede Wars, Marva.
So when we speak of sentient beings, all sentient beings possess this Buddha potential, or Buddha nature. And what is at the root of this Buddha nature, Buddha potential? The root of this is the mental consciousness that all sentient beings possess. If it is a sentient being, he or she necessarily possesses this Buddha nature because he or she necessarily possesses the mental consciousness. And when we speak of mental consciousness, there are two types. There is correct consciousness and mistaken consciousness. The correct consciousness is the category of consciousness that the Buddha nature or Buddha potential falls into.
Da Eji Sheba Tuntusugoro, Eji Sheba Tuntusugalo, and Kashugare, and Chu Tanji Chang, Nuba Yuaris. The Nangazu Chu Tanji Mashiba, the Karijivasana, Numuba, Shiji Jibagan to the Didi Waters. They Dine, and Nangazu Shetu Maris, Marbe.
This mental consciousness has the potential to ascertain or to understand all phenomena. But unfortunately, at this point in time, our mental consciousness has afflictions and has obstructions to omniscience or obstructions to all-knowing. And it's these afflictions and obstructions which cloud our ability to know all phenomena or to be an all-knowing being or an omniscient one.
What the Eji Sheba Sanjik reaches, Eji Sheba there, and then 10 days, 10 days in Dema Maruba is. Dema Maruba Sanjik reaches.
And another explanation of the fact that sentient beings possess this Buddha nature or Buddha lineage is the fact that the mental consciousness itself dependently originates. And because it dependently originates, it has no true existence or no true establishment from its own side.
Chutanje Dema Maruba Sanjik is, Chutanje Dema Maruba Shesuna, and Dema Drubanzi with Denzin the Linyavadores. Dema Drubanzi with Denzin, the Geshe Balatene, Nyomoche Lesane, and then Loari told Dungan the other, Chuna Dema Drubanzi with Denzin, the Geshe Waters. Deme to be Shera, Uson Jonsona, and Dema Drubanzi with Denzil Linyavadores, the new mobile, and then doing the Calical Dream.
So all phenomena are not truly established because of the fact that they dependently originate, but it's this mistaken view that sees them as truly established, which creates all of the 6 realms of cyclic existence. It's the grasping at true existence which is at the root or the causal factor of all of samsara or of cyclic existence. So if we're able to have a correct understanding of the lack of true establishment of all phenomenon, if we can come to the realization that phenomena are not truly established, then this acts or serves as an antidote or an opponent to the afflictions and will eventually be able to eradicate or wipe out all of the afflictions.
Well, that may learn Sawachibure, may send the Nubachibures, may send the Sanlo into Santana, and then Kashugare. ane kunchu song la jiao sun zhuo, len zhe song, deba shaba tanda sheba ina, ane nga song gu dunga ka ne, la dang me le, nan rutu gu res. Wa de, tabi chu gu, de jebu chung yu chu gu se gu res, marwa.
Yan zhi sur lang, the jipa chungo.
jebu chung de nga zu, nyang le kan res je gu res na, ane nga zu, ane kunchu song la jiao sun zhuo gu ne, ane mega jubung chutin sung deba la sha na ya jeba ina nga song le jega ma res la da mal chin de res te tabi tau ju de jebu chung chu ko so res.
So at this point we have a human basis, and this human basis is very powerful and has a large amount of potential. Our human mind has so many abilities and has great intelligence. So a being who goes for refuge to the three jewels and practices ethics and acknowledgement or confession of his or her misdeeds in order to be free from the suffering of the lower realms, because he or she wishes to achieve a rebirth into the higher realms of the gods and humans, is called a being of small capacity. And these teachings are teachings for beings of small capacity. So a practitioner of small capacity, or a practitioner of the small scope, focuses on the three jewels of refuge, the Buddha jewel, the Sangha jewel, and the Dharma jewel, and also focuses on ethical behavior and purification of misdeeds through confession in order to produce the his or her desired result, which is eradication of rebirth into the lower realms.
어제 다때네 생각 니버때 툴 해서나 되네 녀모바다 녀모바서 말বে 아네 동에 대바도 군주 대바니 모자지 로와 되네 고네 달라데 아네 냐솔라발라 되네 아네 가서래 녀모바다 아네 동에지 동에 주 동에 차반 뒤지 동에 가네 타벌 드비 아네 추기 추지 요아레스 what the jibun dingi chugo is, jibun dingi chugo, temengi chugo so.
And then a mind which has a little bit stronger potential or ability is one of a practitioner of the medium scope, or a teaching for being of medium capacity. And this type of practitioner abandons the first two of the Four Noble Truths, which is the truth of suffering and the truth of origin. A medium scope practitioner abandons these two and then practices or takes on the final two noble truths, the truth of cessation and the truth of path, because he or she wishes to be free from cyclic existence altogether and wishes to achieve liberation for his or herself alone. And this type of practitioner who wishes to eradicate all of the afflictions through practicing the path that abandons the first two noble truths, and the path abandons them by utilizing the third noble truth of path to arrive at the goal of cessation. And this type of practitioner, again, is called a practitioner of medium capacity, or a medium scope practitioner.
What did the Timeba Zogi Karshugor, Tabatu to Wars, Ina Rani Chibichi, the Tabatu Madu, Sinjan Taji to Sanji Gun to the Womaris, Sinjan Taji to Sanji Gun to Bala, and Chibichimbi on Lawaris, Marba.
But this type of practitioner is called a lesser scope practitioner, or a Hinayonist. And the reason for this name is because this practitioner desires liberation or nirvana only for his or herself alone. They do not focus on relieving other sentient beings of their suffering. And it's because of this that they are called a lesser vehicle, or a Hinayonist. It's only the great scope, or Mahayana practitioner, that turns their focus to liberating all sentient beings, and their focus is much greater or much more vast than that of a lesser vehicle practitioner, because the object of observation is much greater.
어제 다때네 테메바데 뇨모비 다중투고 다 본투고레 뇨모비 바샤 본투고 마레스 뇨모비 바샤데 본발라 아네 샤추 센로장고레스 샤추 센로마잖아 뇨모 바샤 본투고 갈레고레스.
A lesser vehicle or practitioner, or a Hinayonist, has eradicated the afflictive obstructions, or the afflictions that obstruct liberation, and has achieved the state of foe destroyer. So a Hinayyanist has the potential to achieve a state which is free from the afflictions, but that practitioner is not able to eradicate the imprints of those afflictions, because it's necessary to engage in the practice of the mind that aspires to enlightenment, or bodhicitta, in order to eradicate the obstructions to omniscience. So the lesser vehicle practitioner does not utilize this mind that aspires to enlightenment. So he or she is not able to achieve the final goal of Buddhahood, and is only able to achieve a foe destroyer with the remainder of imprints of the afflictions.
어제 다 대바 준비 요거든 대바 준비 생제 신제 다지고도 선지고 토바 샤오냐비 샤주고 생된 대바 준비 요거레스 요거로
Jugo don't know.
요거 마야나 줘서 그러봐.
Okay, jugo. Okay.
요거 야 전도도 나비 요거레스 대제 생제 대바 준비 요거레스.
So the door to the great vehicle is the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So the door to Mahayana is bodhicitta. Just like the door to Buddhism is refuge in the three jewels, bodhicitta is the door to the Mahayana.
어제 다때다비 샤주고 생데 용화라 안에 준대게 바니 소마레스 준대 명아 뉘주고는 생지비 추다 다제냐바제고는 생지비 니 소마레스.
So when we speak of bodhicitta, or the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and translators note this enlightenment is complete Buddhahood, because there's enlightenment of a lesser vehicle. The enlightenment that I speak of when I translate bodhicitta is a full enlightenment of Buddhahood. So the mind that aspires to enlightenment, or bodhicitta, is what the great vehicle practitioner must rely on. And there are two causal factors, or two causal vehicles that allow a practitioner to achieve the realization of bodhicitta. The first one is passed down from Lord Maitreya to a Sangha through the extensive deeds lineage, and this is called the 7-point cause and effect for achieving bodhicitta. And the second lineage of causal factor for the realization of the mind that aspires to enlightenment is passed down from the great master Manjushri to Nagarjuna and so forth. And this lineage was called the profound view lineage. And the teachings for achieving bodhicitta in this lineage were called equalizing and exchanging self and others. So the two causal lineages of bodhicitta are equalizing and exchanging self and others, and the 7-point cause and effect for achieving the realization of bodhicitta.
어제 다 준대 명아 뉘주고는 생지비 추세 주주 당 레부지도 뉘레스 말바 주주데 세장 다제 랑 많이 먹은고르스 딘템바 티조 용기 샴바 이제 하상 와드바데 주주드레스 데네 주주데 공발라 때네 안드버 세장 다제고도 사주고 도바 자오냐 세제데 레버레스 레부 말바.
So the 7-point cause and effect for achieving bodhicitta has 6 causes and 1 result. The 6 causes are as follows: recognizing that all sentient beings are our mothers, remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, love through the force of attraction, great compassion, the extraordinary attitude, and in dependence upon these 6 causal factors, one can achieve the 7th, which is the result of bodhicitta, or the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So this is why it is called the 7-point cause and effect for achieving bodhicitta, because there are 6 causes and 1 result.
어제 또 담보 고아차한테 레라버레스 안에 롤레 안에 아도 몸부산 당워 몸부산 당나 안고 안에 그제 자체천 누구서레스 안에 그 줄이 제가 가보요레스 시야레 라버레스 고네 줄이 제가 깔레 가버레스 네 몸부 깔레 잡버레스.
So initially it's quite easy to intellectually understand these things. But to produce these causes is much different than just an intellectual understanding. It's much easier just to hear them and understand them than it is to realize them. So one has to meditate or familiarize oneself again and again with these 6 causal factors in order to produce the 7th result of bodhicitta. It's not something that happens rapidly. It's something that happens through gradual practice.
다 다제냐바 제고는 센시비 추들레 라진진 주요레스 라진진 주요레 옌제바제비 제지들레 요데 모요레스 와들게 상로모다에서 라제바제비 제지 주연다 옌제지게 요데 산단 라제바제비 제지를 주요가요레스나 아니 저와 도마 매번 다 디바도 가서 로아리돌로 코네 동에지 동에 주유 동에 자반 주지 동에 제가 나시 동에라서 조야 매버데 라진진 그 조시발라 때네 모제 레사네 워데용도 거르스.
That's it. So the second practice of equalizing and exchanging self and others, the major characteristic of that practice is the recognition of the downfalls of cherishing oneself and the excellent qualities of cherishing others. So this practitioner realizes that since beginningless time, he or she has been forced into the 6 realms of cyclic existence and has had to endure the various types of suffering associated with cyclic existence, such as the suffering of change, the suffering of suffering, the pervasive compounded suffering, the suffering of being separated from those things which one likes, and the suffering of meeting with things that aren't pleasant, and so forth. All of these types of suffering have been caused by one thing, and this one thing is the self-cherishing attitude. So we can see that this self-cherishing attitude has, since beginningless time, produced every type of suffering that we have not wished to endure. So we can see that the self-cherishing attitude is a very bad attitude, and the attitude which cherishes others produces the opposite result.
다 옌제지들 요데 조요레스 아는 가수 세제 다지게 도안도고 동행도고 말레스 동행 문도 바데 라제지라든 종고레스 동행 문도 나야 동행 용고레스 데 라제지게 제오레스 아는 세제 다지게 도안도고레스 도와도서 근갈로 아는 옌제바제 제지라든 종도고레스 아는 옌제지게 데보 장슈 사제 데네 샹추 셈바 다중바다 안내 세제게 도와근갈로 옌제바제 제지게 데보레스.
So all sentient beings wish to be free from suffering, like ourselves. But all of this suffering is that beings have to endure is caused by a self-cherishing attitude. Every type of suffering throughout all of the realms, when that suffering is investigated, we can see that the self-cherishing attitude has caused it every time. But all of the happiness that sentient beings wish to have and do have, all of the types of happiness that can be produced are produced by an attitude which cherishes others. All of the realizations of liberation and Buddhahood and so forth are all caused by an attitude which cherishes others. If one wishes to have a rebirth into the higher realms or experience any type of happiness whatsoever, all of these experiences, or pleasant experiences, are caused by an attitude which cherishes others.
어제는 샤자문은 보다 가서 담은 가서 잡으래서 콜 동에요 녀무요레스 아는 고 예제지냐래지 라예완도네 아네 예제바제베 제지 아네 냐소나 발된 콘단도 상제스모레스 단단 가서 상제 마도바데 아는 가서 예제지 제마지냐래지 도고 마레스 라제지 셰체보요도바데 제버레스.
Shakyamuni Buddha, initially Shakyamuni Buddha was exactly like us. He had afflictions and the various types of suffering that we have to endure, but he chose to take on an attitude which cherishes others and was able to arrive at the realization of complete Buddhahood based on this attitude of cherishing others. The difference between Shakyamuni and ourselves is that we have not chosen to take on an attitude which cherishes others. We have chosen to cherish ourselves, and as a result of this, we are bound to cyclic existence, and we do not have the same realizations as Buddha Shakyamuni. And the real difference here is the actual attitude relative towards others and towards ourselves. So bodhicitta is of two types. There is aspiring bodhicitta and engaged bodhicitta. No matter what, if we're speaking of the practice of equalizing and exchanging self with others, or the 7-point cause and effect for achieving the realization of bodhicitta, either one, one has to start with aspiring bodhicitta. And then once one has the aspiring type of bodhicitta, or the aspiring mind that aspires to enlightenment, once one has that type of mind, then he or she can take the bodhisattva vow. And then once the bodhisattva vow is taken, then the bodhicitta becomes engaged bodhicitta. But all beings must go through the process of initially having the aspiring bodhicitta, and then taking a bodhisattva vow and converting that bodhicitta into engaged bodhicitta.
초가진 되네 안능에 상주 상지고 투바샤 상지고 투바샤 오냐 센데 상지고 마토주 봐도 려그 말이냐면 그래서 쇼트업 당자고 그래서 초계송 취지송 말이스.
So once one achieves this mind, this aspiring bodhicitta, or the aspiring mind that aspires to enlightenment, then one must find out how to keep that realization and build upon it, or in order to stabilize it and increase it. Then this text goes into ways in which one can do that, such as setting up images of enlightenment, making offerings and so forth to them, offering a 7-limb prayer, and going for refuge to the 3 jewels. And this is in order to stabilize this bodhicitta. It's in order to make the aspiring bodhicitta very strong so that it can not be lost. So we've already gone over the section of this text on how to stabilize and increase the aspiring bodhicitta.
So
today we'll be going over the engaged bodhicitta, the bodhicitta which arises by taking a bodhisattva vow. Let's go. Jugo.
Josen Dani, Domba Matuba. Josen
Jugo, Injike. Bouquet, got it.
Josen Dani, Domba Matuba.
Kaba.
Josen Dani, Domba Matuba. Yanda Meba Pio Jumayi. Zubishachu.
Ade Jugo. Jugo.
Jugo said away.
The Jugo.
Josen Dani.
You know, the Chanka, Jugo.
19.
Okay. Yeah, so we're at number
Sorry,
19
yeah.
In the English and the Tibetan as well. It's the same stanza number.
Oh, number 19.
It's Sansan de Beik, the trunk, the Kensavo.
Oh,
Yeah, the Lodzin Mas. So does everybody has it? Are we? No. That's go rim chigang sena the zawa. The
Okay.
Tamche Yomane.
Would you say 19?
Yes.
Thank you.
Having 19.
다 된다마 상주 선배 동발래야 상주 선배 동발래야 다 상주 그 선배 줄이 제사 손나 안 상주 선배 저기 상주 선배 줄 대용거라서 말배 신줄 로야 되봐 시스버 파시 냐나 지야 되봐 용거라서 대인 잔들 안 상주 선배 동발래 거라서 말배.
So once one has created the causal factors for achieving bodhicitta, once one has achieved this aspiring bodhicitta, or the aspiring mind that aspires for enlightenment, then that being will wish to engage in a practice of the six perfections. And in order to do that, then he or she will wish to take the bodhisattva vow in order to engage in a practice of the six perfections. So this is where we've arrived in the text.
근데 상주 선배 저기 상주 선배 동발 가르진래 거라서 상주 선배 동발래 거 주생 가르스 담보 어떤 거서 상주 선배 동발 말래 바이나 안내 상주 그 선데 야 고네 안내 페도고 말레스
Increase. Hakusan.
로도 말레스 상주 선배 동발래 때네 신주당 때네 냥래 제바이나 안내 상주 선 안내 야페노 거라서 고네 야페 누가 쳐차는 거라서 대인 소자 안내 상주 선배 동발래 거라서.
What is the reason that a bodhisattva takes a bodhisattva vow? Why would he or she choose to do this? It's because if the bodhisattva vow is not taken, then the bodhicitta cannot increase in realization. The strength of the bodhicitta cannot increase. And without the bodhisattva vow, it's impossible to practice the six perfections. So it's for this reason that the bodhisattva chooses to take a bodhisattva vow. It's so that the bodhicitta itself, or the mind that aspires to enlightenment itself, can increase, and the realization can increase.
어쨌든 당고로게 뭔데 말이야 시비티 날 틴 주담주 사진도 연된 그 지진에 레바송스 추진 제단 사진 잡으레스 사진 추진 그 사진이 아부 종소나 안에 텔레 안에 샤주 셈비 초랑 조랑 동랑 고랑 안에 탱가랑라 소바 사 도스근걸로 야부제 도레스 샤주 셈 추진 그 사진이 아부 마조나 안에 샤주 셈비 연된 안에 야부제 도고 말레스 연대 고는 고도 회도고 말레스 추진 그 사진이 아부 그레스.
Then the long yanja surana. The tamche shingyu in a long yanja. Long.
Bogolodugi shibiti
Chiching yana.
shibiti tin judamju sajindos. Chutinde ana ngaso sajikan rudil rosade modatana mandronanda sajiguro. Sajiduyena mandro tugore modatan tugore karina yungore shinjegore matoje yungoro. Chuting sajiduyeba ina ane shanju sembi yete koma ngaya beje yungores. Kona kondu pegores.
Why is it necessary to have vows? Why is ethical discipline important? And we can find a quote in Nagarjuna's text, Letter to a Friend, where he states that ethics are like the basis or the fertile ground in which all other realizations can grow. And the reason that this is stated is because it's necessary for a bodhisattva to get anywhere with his or her realizations to have ethical discipline as the foundational practice. If he or she has an ethical foundation, then it's possible for the bodhisattva to go through the bodhisattva's path of accumulation, the bodhisattva's path of preparation, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, the path of no more learning. It's possible for he or she to traverse the 10 bodhisattva grounds or 10 bodhisattva levels. So it's necessary to have this fertile ground of ethical discipline in order for all of the other excellent qualities of the bodhisattva to grow. Similar to a field. The field must be very fertile in order to produce nice flowers and nice vegetables and so forth. All of the various qualities need to be present in order to produce a sprout. Likewise, in order to produce the latter realizations, the bodhisattva must have the fertile ground of ethics as the basis of his or her practice.
Lomba del tin abu yoba ina, and lomba de aji chiburis, Jacob the rich chagaris, when American Chajaba ina, and the lomba cabandona, Pelisi tin the bay abu was, tin the abu yotan, Hada to Hada Lujon abu yunguare, Memba to hang Nesu abu yunguare, Tomba to get the Sui abu yunguare, then Jacob rich abu chayunguares, Tingu was lomba.
So when we speak of lands or places, if a place has very good law and the laws are enforced, then that place will prosper because there will be order in the society and there will be an ability to have schools and an ability to have doctors and so forth. Without a law in place and police to enforce that law, things would be completely disorderly and it wouldn't be possible to have these schools, and it wouldn't be possible to train doctors and to do all of these things which in a place like America, for instance, we have the ability to do. Vows are very similar, or ethical discipline is very similar to a law in a society. It's necessary to have them or have it in order to have the other things prosper. So it's necessary to have ethical discipline in order to have realization, like it's necessary to have law in order for a society to prosper.
So in number 19
So this text by Nagarjuna called A Letter to a Friend is actually advice given to a king. Advice given to a king by Nagarjuna on how to run his kingdom in a fashion that will allow the kingdom to become rich and prosper and the society to be a happy, pleasant society. So this particular text was written in response to various questions that the king had for the master Nagarjuna on how to run his kingdom.
What the Tawad, what 19 or 19, what the inch cut to 0 nas? Josen Dani, Domba Matu Bar, Yanda, Mabapio and Jomai. Zubi Shanjun Doba, Pen Debe, the Shimbe and then Balance. Josen Dani, Domba Matuba Sondu, Shanju Sembi, Domba Malamba, Malamba, Yanda, Mabapio and Jomai, Tamba Mersen Jigoro, the Mersen. And then the shul in Josen Jigoro.
That's so.
Josen Shanju Sembi Domba Langoro.
Shanju
Sembi Domba the Malamba Ina, and then Mersen Shanju Sendia, Kone Kont Pitu Maris. Shanju Sembi Domba Lambaina, Shanju Sendia, Kone Kont Pen, Nebachi Chayunguris. And the Tibachimi Lantun Jul Junguris. Yanda Mababio and Jumais. Zubi Shanju Domba Pen de Be, Teshim Bebe, and then Nebalance. Zubi Shanju Domba Pin Debe, Zubi Shanju Domba Shanju, Sendia Kone Kondo, Pia and Dova Yobaina. Then they Shanju Sembi Domba Neba the Langures.
So number 19 it says, without the vow of the engaged intention, perfect aspiration will not grow. Make effort definitely to take it, since you want the wish for enlightenment to grow. So here it says, without the vow of the engaged intention. Here, this is speaking of the bodhisattva vow. So it's stating that without the bodhisattva vow, the aspirational bodhicitta by itself will not have the potential to grow it's necessary to take this bodhisattva vow, or as it's called here, the vow of engaged intention, in order for the mind that aspires to enlightenment to be perfected or to grow in strength or realization. So this is the reason given here for taking the bodhisattva vow by Master Atisha. And it's stating here to make an effort definitely to take it for the reasons that were just given.
다때네 전주고 다 상주 선배 동바들 내바이나 내바때네 존데네 니니바이네 상주고 선대 패데 그랬어. 가도베 뒤타제도 상주고 선대 패데 그랬어. 나각 너무 잘 그랬어.
So it's stated that if one has this bodhisattva vow and has a true bodhisattva vow, and even if he or she is sleeping, then the bodhicitta itself increases, or the mind that aspires to enlightenment actually increases. So whatever activity he or she is engaged in, the bodhicitta increases once the bodhisattva, it is said the bodhicitta increases once the bodhisattva vow has been taken. It's stated that the virtue would fill all of space.
다때네 인사바라 나가서 뭐도나 지도와 신조와 있는 신로와 담보지야 갈 가보도스. 아노고 자와서 자두 아니 냐마다바제노도 되죠. 근데 상주 생줄이제 상주 생배 동발랑 차바이나 근데 상주 생데 신야 집어나야 페누고서.
Then let's go tambo the shin je dets kalikapo, then shin jena, then nyuko yona, then leilabo drogodo.
되죠 제노도. 생 가두이나 고 갈래갈래제 되고. 어떤다.
Tambo kalikapo.
담보지야 갈래가버스.
Dene.
제 자두에 되는 상주 생 갈래갈래 배운
Less so. Okay. So it's very similar to a tree or a sprout. If one wishes to grow some kind of tree, sprout, vegetable, in the initial stages to get it to actually come up, it's quite difficult because one must have all the necessary things in place in order to produce a sprout. But once that sprout is produced and comes above ground, then to maintain it and to make it grow more and more and more, it becomes a little bit easier than the initial stages, because initially one has to gather all sorts of things in order for this sprout to be produced. But then all it must happen is it must be maintained. So this is very similar to the bodhicitta, maintaining the bodhicitta in order for it to grow. So this is what is meant in this particular quote, the shuju.
Then
the lungare. So it's been stated in the Bodhicharya Avatara even that once the bodhisattva vow is taken, no matter what one engages in, even if it's sleeping, then the bodhicitta itself increases. Individual liberation.
What the Shanjuk Saint Karsagore Sotago Domba Jula Yoba, Sotago Domba Tumbi, and the Twitty Jula Yogures, Jula Yobi Kanza Shigi, and the Shanju Semi Domba Langures, what the lady was at.
So then the next part, the question will arise, what is an appropriate basis for the bodhisattva vow? Who can take a bodhisattva vow? There are bodhisattvas that are humans, there are bodhisattvas that are gods, the 6 realms of cyclic existence. Which beings can take a bodhisattva vow? In this particular stanza, it says those who maintain any of the 7 kinds of individual liberation vows have the ideal prerequisite for the bodhisattva vow, not others. So here it speaks of those who have the individual liberation vow are the appropriate basis. for receiving the Bodhisattva vow. So that's what's stated here.
다시 요새도 면생데 다 면생데 로아리 두갈 지어요레스 로아리 루가 트리 로랑 하이 로 트리 하이로 강갈 지어요레스 다드네 상주 셈비 동바데 데네 피지 로랑 지어요 말와 단데 가도 제나 네 소타가 동바 주된 거 그래스 소타가 동바 줄 대발래 소타가 동바 줄 요바이나 안데 상주 셈비 동바 지 그래스 소타가 동바 줄 메바이나 상주 셈비 동바 지 말에 소모 나부 요르테 수수 타바 레드인지 다 자와 된데 말베 로아 단니 슈바드로 20
Susu Tarpa Ridunji.
수수 타바 레드인지 다도 동제 덴바다 상주 셈비 동바이 가와요 지젠도 미스 수수 타바 레드인 줄 요바이나 안데 상주 셈비 동바 줄지야 가와요 아레스 데메나 안데 상주 셈비 동바 지 도구 말에 송은 라버진 도와 what the Dumale can attend the Lord and Jugus.
Then
That-
go ahead.
Susutaba Redun, alla Susutaba Redun Jes, Susutaba Redun Je, Tato Donjen Dembala, Sanju Sembi Dombai, Kawayu Jen de Mis. Ta Susutaba Redun de Carasana, Gene Pamani, Gene Pamani, Gene Pami Dombani, Gene Pami Dombani, Lampas and River.
Lasso.
파다마다 초바와 니제 그냥 밤이 동바니 제 거주 밤아니 나베 바와 나베 나는 바 지지지로와 되네 그래
Kitsuma.
아
Kitsuma Doma.
글로마
Gloma.
거주 마다 글로마니 바로들
Lasso.
거주 마요로와
Education gear.
나베 나는 바와 되네 나베 볼로데
Probationary.
나는 바와 나 나베 나는 바와 give 되네
Lasso.
she want
Gloma.
글로마이 도마 되바이나 test 2 year
Lasso.
네 글로마이 도바지
로니 장고.
로니송 그 따져지고
Lasso.
pomodele 네 글로마이 도바지네 그수 마텔
Lasso.
로니 chronons 대송 도군도나
Lasso.
네 글로마이 도바진 그레스
Lasso.
어디서
So here it says, those who maintain any of the 7 kinds of individual liberation vow have the ideal prerequisite for the Bodhisattva vow, not others. So here it would seem that it's stating that only those who have individual liberation vows are those who can take the Bodhisattva vow. No one else can. So if one read this literally, it states that one has to have the 7 kinds of individual liberation vows. And what are those vows? 7 kinds of individual liberation vows are the lifetime vows of the 2 for the layperson being a male and female, 2 vows. Layperson male vow, layperson female vow. There are 2 novice vows, a novice monk and a novice nun's vow. There is 1 probationary nun's vow, making the 5th, and then fully ordained monk and fully ordained nun. And the probationary nun's vow is a vow that a nun takes right after she has the novice nun's vow, and it's a vow that lasts for a period of about 2 years. And then she checks to make sure it's something that she really wants to do. And after 2 years of analyzing and making sure that it's something that she can go through with, then the fully ordained nun's vow is given after that 2-year period. So these are the 7 kinds of vows, and it would seem that it's being stated here or asserted that only those who have one of those 7 kinds of vows can have the Bodhisattva vow. So that's how one interpretation of this particular stanza here. And previously, the Rinpoche, the Dao Richu, the Tamche Musen Yure, Yine Jusen Yomare, Jusen the Me Yimba. Okay. So, and when we speak of the 6 realms, there's one thing I forgot to translate. I've been trying to get in. When we speak of the 6 realms of cyclic existence, all 6 realms, it's possible for someone to produce aspiring bodhicitta in all 6 realms, but engaged bodhicitta can only be realized by human or God. So aspiring bodhicitta, the first level of bodhicitta, can arise in any of the 6 realms, but it's engaged bodhicitta is only in the humans and God's realm.
That's also tabari doing just doing my to some was.
Lesson.
Nene Domba Java in a social tabari J was J. Ninja Jig Domba, Maya one bar and Rabu Jig is Sudak Domba J was.
Teme.
But the Java in a Sudak Domba J was.
But if we look at individual liberation vows, they're sometimes numbered 8, and that's because there is a 24-hour individual liberation vow that's very similar to a Mahayana one-day vow. So that if we add that 24-hour vow in, then there are 8 individual liberation vows, but 7 of them are lifetime vows.
That Galon Pamani, Gachu Pamani, Jedel, Sanji, Konaji, Sanji Romano, so Galon Pamani, Gachu Pamani, Jedres, Konaji, Shedaki Chevores, and the Sanji Sonwares, Lombatele, Konaji de Yobaina, Galon Pamani, Gachu Pamani, Jet de Yobaina, and the Lodebudus, and the Sanji never the Abbot Degres, Sanji Sonwares.
So Gelong Ni,
Galon Pamani, Gachu Pamani, Jedre. Konaji, Sanji Kuyu Jet, Galon Pamani, Gachu Pamani, Jet, Loma Kabayo Baina, Sanji Temba de Abdega,
Galoma Yomare,
Galoma Yodo, Galon Pamani, Maiduma Paidomani, and the Gachu Pamani Zero.
Ale,
to Konaji,
okay.
Konaji, the Loma Kabayona,
Lesser.
and the Sanji Nai Temba de Abdega.
So Buddha has asserted that anywhere that there are the holders of 4 vows, anywhere that there is a fully ordained monk, a fully ordained nun, a novice monk, and a novice nun, anywhere there are 4 of these beings, there is, Buddha asserted that the Buddha Dharma has arrived in that place or is stable in that place.
Gachu Pamani, Galon Pamani, the Yoris, Galon Pama to Mayo Maris,
Payere Mayamar.
Gachu Pamani, so much Maris.
So in Tibet, we can see that there are only 3 of these. In Tibet, there is the novice monk and novice nun, but there is not a fully ordained nun. There's only fully ordained monks. So there are only 3 of these present in the Tibetan tradition.
That Galon Mad Veggie Town years ago, then the Putabajan do Mudu Teguars. Yaburendo Mudu Taji was Yaburenduna, Tawan Galomai Donjute, Bebelangares.
But it's possible that in Taiwan there is still the lineage of the fully ordained nun. So we need to analyze this to find out if this is really true or not, historically true or not. And if we can find that it is historically true, then we should bring members of the Taiwanese tradition to the Tibetan tradition to ordain females in the fully ordained status so that we can re-invoke or reinstate the fully ordained nuns' lineage in Tibet.
That Jai Tulu then Galon Magi, what the Sukangalo Beki to Demo Zusabres, Taji was, Kabaya Yabudu Kabandu to
So there have been many books made about this from the Yanjar Surama.
Dance.
George Jesar.
Jai Tulu Yabatungalo, translator, Beki to Jusabres. Jutsar.
Okay. So many of these texts that contain this information have been translated from Chinese into Tibetan. So now it's necessary for us to truly analyze them to see if they're historically accurate or not.
Taiwan, Korea, Singapore,
So we can look in Taiwan, Singapore, and Korea and all of the traditions to find out where the truth really lies.
What that's also Tabari, Susaka Dumba to Sungalo, Peji, Susaka Dumba, Jul Jebala, Nanjuk, Samba Gugurs, Nabanju, Sutin on the Shenas, Nanjuk, Samba Mena, Sutaka Sutin Kali covers.
So the reason that this is stated is because in order for one to take an individual liberation vow, it's necessary for that practitioner to have renunciation or have the desire to definitely get out. If he or she does not have the desire to definitely get out, or if he or she doesn't have renunciation, then it's quite impossible to actually have the arisal of these vows, individual liberation vows, take place.
Oje tatane sosu tabari duje tatu donje dembala shanchu sembi domba yekewa yoji jendo sotago domba julu yona ane shanchu sembi domba lengene yabu chegere kewa yoares sotago domba julu majena ane peje shanchu sembi domba chege mare somba nabro da tate me pejenge tene phashi chede duzele me want shebares te Shanchu sembi domba jebala yanchi meji sotago domba go mares Shanchu sembi domba jebala sotago domba go seate me want shebares me shanchu sembi domba lemba yina sotago domba ngodunro gores sotago domba ngodunro ande shanchu sembi domba lemba yina ande shanchu sembi domba yabu yongores me want shebare madu shanchu sembi domba lemba la sotago domba go mares
So here in this text it says, those who maintain any of the 7 kinds of individual liberation vows have the ideal prerequisite for the bodhisattva vow, not others. So here this could be interpreted in one way by stating that it's necessary to have one of these 7 kinds of vows in order to be an appropriate vessel for the bodhisattva vow. So this would mean then that it's necessary to be a human being in order to take bodhisattva vows. And in Panchen Sonandrapa's text, the general meaning of perfection, translators note that Panchen Sonandrapa is the textbook writer for Drepung Losang Ling, and this text is a commentary on the Prajnaparamita. In this particular text, he asserts that for a human being taking the bodhisattva vow, it's best that to be the most appropriate vessel, it's best that that human being has the individual liberation vow as a prerequisite to taking the bodhisattva vow. But it is not a prerequisite in general, because you can see that gods have the ability to take a bodhisattva vow, but gods cannot take individual liberation vows. So this can be interpreted in a couple of ways, but the correct interpretation is that the best type of vessel for taking the bodhisattva vow is a human who has the individual liberation. The best kind of human for taking the bodhisattva vow is a human who has taken the individual liberation vow. But it is not necessary to have the individual liberation vow in order for the bodhisattva vow to arise, because of the example of the gods who have the ability to take one but not the other.
Genye domba len tene gechu gu domba gulung domba len gores shanchu sembi domba len ba ina shanchu sembi domba tene sotagu domba
Dene shanchu sembi
domba len gores me want gores.
So for a human being, for instance, there's a particular order in which one takes vows. For instance, in order to have a fully ordained vow, one must have the prerequisite of the novice vow. In order to have the novice vow, it's necessary to have the prerequisite of the layperson vow. And so for a human being, it's necessary to have the prerequisite of the individual liberation vow in order for he or she to take the bodhisattva vow. So this is speaking specifically about human beings. So here this is speaking of the correct or appropriate basis or appropriate being for taking the bodhisattva vow.
Kako Mila to Shanju Samba Dumba Lamba Yoare, Sota Dumba Yomaris, in a Sota Dumba and Rabu Yoris. Legend and Naba Swung, Haga Naba She, won't be shooting on Roguris. Sota Dumba Maina, Lugun and Sujiba Machimba Lema, so Naga Naba She, what the soup won't be shooting on Roguris. Sota Dumba
Dupila.
Debilalia, Debila, Kankomila, Desire of God.
Yine Zukan Zumekam Yomare.
Zume Khan Pechi Shanchu Sembi Dumba Kabi, Zukan, the Hani Lior, the La
Zukan Dan Dukan Nicha.
Zujlatan, Debil Hadin.
Okay. So the reason that this isn't the case is because there are gods that take bodhisattva vows, cases of desire realm gods. All of the different desire realm gods have the ability to take the bodhisattva vow, as well as gods of the form realm gods. So all of these beings have the ability to take the bodhisattva vow, but they cannot take individual liberation vows because they're not human, they're gods.
Tadashan no Jindu Suda Redun Kanun Guba, the Jinshibi Sumbala, Chumeji Chaba, Chetabu Yinhana, Sanshu Peji Dumbane, Kunjinane, Chuyimba Sunlas, Sanshu Pen Chuyimba Sunlas, Sanshu Ne, Galon Pami Dumbatado. Dashanchu Sembi Dumba Galon Madan, Pagi, Neshanchu Sembi Dumba Lamba in the Yashuris, Chudu Jubaris. Galon Pamani, Neshanchu Sembi Dumba Lamba Yina, and Shanchu Sembi Dumba de Yashuris.
Nishisachi.
Sanshu Pen Chuinos, Sanshu Pen Chuino, Sanshu Galon Pamani.
Then the Shilokachi Tanche, the Langua Injike.
Oh, they are Langani or the Tomba Chintaro. Ah,
Nishisachi. The
Nishitaji, Chetalambi Chugar Hota, and Somba Chetalambi Chugar, the Nishitaji, Susutaba Redun, Susutaba Redun, the Shebe Shebala, Sanshu Ben Chuinte, Glontomata, what the
Galoma Galompai Angitambo.
that the name Somba Chetalambi Chugala. Alon, then
The cheek ne lagian, then the diggerbe. Gangisena, the ne jagian, the tanda ne lagian.
Okay.
So here at 21 it says the Tathagata spoke of 7 kinds of individual liberation vow. The best of these is glorious pure conduct, said to be the vow of a fully ordained person. So number 21 is saying that the best type of vow that one can take, the highest kind of vow, would be the vow of the fully ordained monk or nun. So the 2 kinds of vows of fully ordained male and female. That's cool. Okay. So first we're going to do the dedication prayers and everything, and then we'll have question and answer session. So the concluding mandala offering, Samantabhadra dedication, and the long life prayers for Dalai Lama Rinpoche and Geshe Lharampa Gompo. And they should be in your folder or in the back of the red prayer book. During Bayabulu. Sobulu. Okay. Is everybody where we're supposed to be? The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient living beings. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. It's important. Zonye Shindu Mine Owaji Drogunanda Jilan Yombajo Dagi Jinye Zabenge Wani Dendandro Waguna Gambendang Jeba Jetsun Lozandra Bayi Tenbe Nimborindu Senyejo Idam Guru Rana Mandalagam Niradayami. We'll do the concluding prayers in Tibetan only. Jambe Bawu Jeta Jen Padang Kondu Zambo Deyan De Jinte Deda Kunji Jesu Dadoji Gewa Deda Tanche Radungo Dusum Shepe Yawa Tancheji Ngowa Gala Chotu Ngapade Dajen Gewe Tsawa De Kunya Sampo Chuchi Ratu Ngowani Ngamri Rawe Ngowe Yinyam Ne Mendan Dewa Malu Jongwe Ne Chenrezig Wan Tenzin Yadzoi Jamezi Nembanu Tenyoni Lozon Zambo Shunjenang Allah Yun Rin Jampan Zebe Gewe Shen London Domeden Badzin Jema Khensur Wanda Rinjen Jabden Jo Londru Yejung Ambatse Gaben Gosum Dong Anan Juzin Dan Yun Zun Jun Du Zon Darujin Geshe Lharampa Nyurin Janin Jo. Thank you very much, everybody. So we have time for some questions and answers if people are interested, or we can just go.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yes, Dasha.
In verse 20 or stanza 20,
Okay.
prerequisite in a bracket.
Because it's not in the Tibetan. That's just a translator's kind of thing. It's implied in the Tibetan, but the word itself isn't in there. So that's why it's parentheses. It's put in there so the translation makes sense, because we don't really have one word to make it sense out of it. But prerequisite's kind of an addition, so that's why it's parentheses. NGK Gatriwa. Yes?
I would like to know what is the lay person's vow.
Genye Domba Gare.
Genye ke domba del ponjanga yoares, ponjanga, sujiba majiba na domba jiba loyi je
Chama Tom.
cham poyang na de genye bhag pomoglen na digre boglen na dig se ma chimbares. Genye phami domba ni nyene ke domba sunde chimba ke domba chimba. Traba mai bu domba.
Ale Chimba.
Lesso. Chimbi Dumba Sun was.
Less so.
Guinea Bama with Dumba Churus land and
Less so.
Chimba land dividends.
Less so. So the layperson vow is a vow that can be taken by a man or a woman. The vow is exactly the same for a man or a woman. And these are vows for those who have not gone forth. And gone forth here is a literal translation of becoming ordained. So those who have not gone forth can take any of the 3 individual liberation vows, if we enumerate them 8, the 24-hour vow, as well as the layperson vow for the male or female. The layperson vow for the male or female consists of 5 vows. The 5 vows are as follows: abstaining from killing, abstaining from lying, abstaining from stealing, and abstaining from adultery. And then the 5th is abstaining from intoxicants. So the layperson vow is no lying, stealing, killing, no adultery, and no intoxicants. So those are the 5 non-ordained or vows for those who have not gone forth.
Chimbi Dumba Tambusun, Rajun Dumba Tamangas, Chimba Dumba Sun Yuaris, Guinea Pamani, Yenek Dumba Sundaris, Rajun Dumba Tamangaris.
So it's stated that there are 5 for those who have gone forth, 2 novice, 1 probationary, and 2 fully ordained. And there are 3 for those who have not gone forth. There are 3 for those who choose to stay householders. And those 3 are the 24-hour and the 2 layperson vows. So many of the realized practitioners of India, kings and even practitioners in Tibet, such as Milarepa and so forth, all held, and Marpa, all held this householder vow, the layperson vow. And the great master Drontompa was a layperson. Drontompa was Atisha's root disciple, who, this is a translator's note, who received the entire Lamrim lineage. And Atisha felt he was the only one suitable to receive it, and he was a layperson.
Jeff, would you repeat those 6 causes of the 7-point cause and effect?
Sure. Recognizing all sentient being as our mother, remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, love through the force of attraction, great compassion, the extraordinary attitude, and bodhicitta, or mind generation, is the effect. Marsheba, Drindemba, Drinzoa, Nyongi Shamba, Ninji Chembo, Lasam. So it's of great benefit if you can think of these things over and over again. So if we think of them over and over again, then our mind will become bigger, or we will have a more vast mind. So we need to think of many reasons. Why are all sentient beings our mother? What is the reason for this? So we need to think and analyze this again and again. In order to understand that sentient beings are our mother, then we must assert a previous life. And how do we assert that? And so we have to then analyze previous lives. Yes?
When you were talking about the 7 vows,
Kunyalan Yabudu. Got.
you said 2 lay, 1 male, 1 female, 2 novice. Is it 1 probationary?
Yeah, there's no male probationary vow.
No male probationary.
Has to also, translator's note, I've heard, to do with pregnancy, making sure that someone isn't pregnant.
What is probationary?
Probationary means they're on, literally, they're on probation for a 2-year period of time before they can take a fully ordained status. Not popular, but the facts. Yeah, I mean, there's reasons and cultural things that happen, so.
How often should one take the bodhisattva vow? Should one take it more than once?
The Shanchu Sembi Dumba, the Gadu land, the Yanjer land, Pentogudu, Temchi land, Pentogudu, Chiran Salo Gariyu be.
Shanchu Sembi Dumba the Karasagore, Shanchu Sembi Dumba, that Keba Sugi, she's in you,
Lasso.
Keba kaji ke tene shangchu sembe dul domba jul jeba la shangchu semba inwo res. Shangchu sem jul mena shangchu semba domba jega mares. Ane sanga ke shangsa ikoso. Shangsa ri jebo choji pinde chö shangchu semba yina. Shangchu semba meba la domba de bodu morons. Shangchu semba domba lema yina shangchu semba
Shanchu Semba Yim Goa.
shangchu semba do mena shangchu semba domba jega mares sonsa ji yo ares.
Lessa. Shansa Nala.
Oh, shangsa.
Okay.
야 개바 가지 자주 세배 줄매다 자주 세배 도발레 난디그레 손가지 와르스.
So there are actually two lineages of instruction about this. One explanation is that is found in Asanga's bodhisattva levels, and it states that it's not possible for the bodhisattva vow to arise unless one is a bodhisattva. So if one does not have bodhicitta, the bodhisattva vow doesn't even arise in one's continuum if you attend a ceremony, because the causal factor is not present, which is bodhicitta itself. So this is one explanation, and that comes from Asanga's text, the Bodhisattva levels, or Bodhisattva bhumis is what it's called in Sanskrit. But there are also other scholars who state that the Bodhisattva vow can arise without there being bodhicitta. So there are two kind of conflicting explanations of taking Bodhisattva vows and the arisal of the Bodhisattva vow. So the one explanation about the arisal of the Bodhisattva vow without bodhicitta is not given by Asanga. Asanga's texts state that there's no way to receive a Bodhisattva vow without bodhicitta. So there's conflicting opinions.
shangchu semba mena ya ani shangchu semba domba lemba yina. shangchu semba domba ngone chega mares. Drabu ji chega res drabu chega de pem chwe wares.
Asanga tome la lagdu killing
it. Okay. Keba jinda yo.
Lesso.
shangchu semba domba len ngone ma jine drabu chega res. De pem chwe wares benebet.
But although an actual bodhisattva vow doesn't arrive, these scholars such as Asanga and so forth do state that there is a benefit of receiving a facsimile of the bodhisattva vow. So it's similar to a bodhisattva vow, but it's not a real bodhisattva vow. But it's beneficial because of the predisposition that it leaves within the continuum, or affinities for the bodhisattva vow that it leaves in one's continuum.
다 shangchu semba domba lembi chuga kashi cheba duwas, kashi dings dus, kashi tsi nyun jema dumudus. Wadu tsasung jene jene.
Je garishene.
Tsi je. Da kantan tsushin santan, susu lemba yina, lama kundul shangchu semba domba lene digres.
Lesso.
Lama mena, susu lene digres.
Lesso. Lesso.
Wadi shenga le, yela dyuba dumna repu.
Lesso.
Tene, nga shangchu semba zuka shangchu semba domba kandel lemba naji, ngen lengi yins.
Lesso.
Tsi jene yandu te, jene tsasung jeba yina.
Lesso. Lesso. Then, so one can take a bodhisattva vow in the presence of a lama, or one can just imagine the merit field and take the bodhisattva vow in the presence of the imagined merit field. So one basically makes the tambo the yanjir, the tambo shatse, then jubabu, then yalambo. Okay. Okay. So first someone sets up the altar, makes offerings, makes prostrations, and then offers a 7-limb prayer, and so forth.
Tene susu tozo tene jene tene, ane nga zo nga ga domba jindi te marbe, konchu son la da je chis, deba tanje susu je, ryu ke la je, sanje shangchu yi je son, ca son ne riwe je.
So then one repeats 4 lines 3 times and asserts in the presence of either the merit field or the lama that this person would like to take the bodhisattva vow, and request the Bodhisattva vow. And there are 4 lines that are stated. I go for refuge to the 3 jewels. And I confess all of the things that I've done since beginningless time, and so forth. So these lines are stated, and then one receives the Bodhisattva vow, whether there is a Lama present or it's done in the presence of the merit field. And there are, as far as the actual ceremony, there are small, medium, and great ceremonies. So there are different sizes.
I wondered if actually it had more power to take the Bodhisattva vow again in front of the Lama, or if ever in front of the Lama has more power than, daily.
The Lama Yuna do Chembo Yongurbe, dopa Chembo. Gangi Sene Kongi Sampa, then Kon Nima Dakpar, Shanchi Sembi Dumba Langadu, the Kuna, the Lama Me. Yine Lama Yuna, Ping Chembo, Hlapa, Ping Hlapa. So maybe it's good to have a teacher there, but maybe if you have a pure kind of thought, it's just as good to take it the other way without the Lama present. But it's very important to study, important to understand these 2 causal factors of the equalizing and exchanging self and others, and the 7-point cause and effect for achieving bodhicitta. So it's very important to be familiar with these 2 causal factors. Yes, Katie.
I have kind of an intense question. I don't know if we have time.
Let's go.
Okay. So this is about, I'm a hospice nurse.
Mm-hmm.
When I try to say the names of the 7 medicine healers,
Mm-hmm.
when I listen to a person take their vital signs, and I just say it in my head,
Mm-hmm.
just to give them blessing somehow.
Mm-hmm.
When the person is near death and cannot speak, and I'm saying the names of the medicine healers, if they are of another religion, can that cause harm to their consciousness and disturb their mind? Or should I visualize their deities from my own past experience being raised Christian? I can
Okay.
visualize their own deities at that time to give
Now,
them peace.
just for clarification, are you saying it out loud?
No, thinking it.
You're thinking it. So you're wondering if just you thinking it, because they're not Buddhist and you're Buddhist and you're thinking of Buddhist stuff, will it disturb their passing?
Disturb that, say it's a Jewish person, say it's a Catholic person,
Okay.
say it's a Muslim person. And
But-
am I disturbing their transition, exiting their consciousness?
Now, this person's just an ordinary, they're not clairvoyant, they're just an ordinary person you're talking about, right?
Well, at the time of death, I
See,
think
that's-
the mind is different, but because they're leaving the body, but my intention.
Okay, I gotcha. I just want to make sure it's clear. Kon leka the me mambo shigadu gani sena menkan la leka chegadu then the menkan me mon shigadu. Kon de triwa de tsansan kon de mela dun gitsen zenga de tsan la dangadu then kon the nepa ropa chegadu then mela ming dun tsan la dangadu. Then the kon lagamare the sen na la tsan la dangadu gangi sena the konso the chiluk mambo yere Hindu dang Jewish dang Christian the nampi chu la tugumare then kongi triwa de the konso yishupa then kon the nampi chu tsan la dana then kon the nupa yongre gangi sena kon yishupa then nampi chu tsan la dang the gyawa yimba the jun yongre be gangi sen konso nushi yomare
세제 단지 산다고 세제 단지 미샹바도 니지요 수수 세네 샤바도 니지고 메라가 종아든 네바 시킨 줄 카카지 포전이야 그래서
then konso hako yomare
카카지
okay, so it doesn't create any kind of disruption if you're saying it to yourself, and you can even say the mantras to yourself and blow them on a person who is very sick. And this is though if they aren't aware of you're doing this. You know, you're not aware to blow the mantras on them. But you need to do this to yourself and very quietly. And this is not something that you should externally show you're doing. You shouldn't have any external behaviors that are related to this particular practice. It should be a very internal practice, very private, and it should be kept separate so that the person, you're practicing your religion, they're practicing their religion, and you're not in any way trying to force or put your views onto them. And it's very beneficial for them if you're saying prayers to yourself, and it in no way, if it's to yourself, can harm their continuum because it's conflicting with their views. It's stated that if an animal dies, and even the bones are on the ground, if you blow on the bones of the animal after one has recited this medicine Buddha mantra, that the animal whose bones were there, the continuum is obviously passed on. It's been stated that that continuum immediately is brought into the higher realms. So it makes sense that the same thing would happen for a human being if you blew on them as well.
What is the medicine Buddha mantra? Which one?
Teata Om Bekenze Bekenze, Maha Bekenze, Ranza Samogati Soha. Maha Bekenze. Ranza Samagati Soha. Yeah, it's probably in, all of them are in there for sure. Stash, or, yeah, you can keep it. Lapsage. Karen Digre, the Khensur Lapsage. Stash and Kondu. Bekenze, Maha Bekenze, Ranza Samagati Soha. Yes, John.
I've never memorized that yet. I say on my finger, I see that animal, a horse is died. Is that also beneficial at all?
The kon de teata om bekenze bekenze maha bekenze zin mason ine om mani peme hom zin son. Then the pentogudue.
Mani peme hom dana digre teata om mani mani mahamani dana digre. Om tar do tar dana om arabaza na cheo mar.
Om mani peme hom lama the rugo the pujana then pentogudue chipa. Okay, so it's the same. If you're doing the Om Mani Padme Hum or Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Soha, Teata, any of the mantras have the same power to bless. I asked about the bones as well, and they said that the same exact power if you blow on the bones after reciting Chenrezig's mantra. It also, one can bless the water and then throw the blessed water around.
Which is the best mantra for bringing negativity?
Meaning?
Meaning, well, you can use
like obstacles?
medicine Buddhas, or just negativity if you're working with prisoners or if you're working in a situation where there's a lot of hostility.
So angry people.
Angry people.
The Lampa Nyamdu Leka Chena Zunga Gari Akshu Gangisena Kon Leka Nyamdu Lampa Mambo Yure Contra Sapo. Then the Zunga Gari Akshu. He was joking. He said using harsh words is your best bet. Then Zunga Gari Akshu. Yeah, it doesn't matter what mantra you do or use. They all have the same, Rinpoche said. They all have the same power.
She my English teacher before.
Your Rinpoche's, before was Rinpoche's English teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be enough for today. Thank you.
Thank you.